In China, recently there were several cases of patients getting reinfected with the coronavirus after having recovered, sparking fears. A frontline medic tells us what he saw working at China's coronavirus outbreak epicenter, the pain of seeing patients die, and concerns of catching their own infection. The Taiwanese government has detected large amounts of fear-mongering rumors circulating online, and they say many have links to mainland China. Meanwhile, in North America, rumors are spreading through the Chinese messaging app WeChat, causing panic in the Chinese-American communities. Hong Kong police arrested 3 prominent members of the city's democratic movement today. They include local publishing tycoon Jimmy Lai and 2 former pro-democracy legislators.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. In China, recently, there were several cases of patients getting reinfected with the coronavirus after having recovered. One of them is the first confirmed case in the city of Zhuzhou, over 400 miles away from Wuhan. The patient recovered and was released from the hospital on February 9th. He then stayed in a hotel for 15 days under quarantine. After he got home on February 24th, his neighborhood hosted a big party to celebrate. But 3 days later, he was diagnosed again and found to be infected with the coronavirus a second time. 65 members who attended the celebrations were also put under quarantine. Before January 20th, when it was publicly declared the coronavirus could be transmitted between humans, no one thought there could be human-to-human transmission. Before that date, the Chinese regime had sent 2 teams of experts to Wuhan on 2 different occasions to investigate. But both teams concluded there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission. One expert explained that whenever he went, the doctors all told him there were no cases among medical staff. But later, media reports revealed there were already many instances of medical staff being infected. So why was this? The expert explained why his team wasn't able to do anything. After arriving in Wuhan, the team received instructions from higher-level officials saying that the local authorities are in charge and that the team was only there to offer help. His team arrived on January 8th in Wuhan. But the former mayor of Wuhan said in an interview with state-run media that the local authorities couldn't make a decision themselves until January 20th.
元月20号，国务院召开常务会议，确定了这个病作为一类传染病，并进行甲类传染病的管理，而且要求属地负责。
It seems no one wanted to take responsibility for the time between January 8th to the 20th in Wuhan. Now to China's transparency about the outbreak. There were 2 different diagnosis criteria in Wuhan at the beginning of the outbreak. This caused many people in China who were infected not to be counted. According to a Chinese state-run media outlet, at the beginning of January, many hospitals in Wuhan received a booklet about diagnosis criteria. According to the booklet, on top of the clinical symptoms, patients must have had contact with Wuhan's animal market and a fever over 38 degrees Celsius, which is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Some doctors said many patients who, according to their clinical symptoms, were infected with the virus did not have the chance to use a virus test kit. Why? Because they had not been in contact with the animal market or had a body temperature lower than 38 degrees Celsius. But a second booklet, the so-called Green Book, did not include those 2 criteria. So based on this booklet, many more patients should have been confirmed to have the coronavirus. Both booklets came from the Wuhan Health and Medical Commission, but China's Health and Medical Commission denied issuing the first booklet, saying they only issued the second one. Doctors in Wuhan said they'd never seen the second booklet before, so which is it? On February 26th, there were 10 confirmed cases in Beijing, which aroused strong reactions among Chinese netizens. The official announcement exposed the address of the 10 people's workplace, but did not name the institution. Netizens searching for the address found an old announcement from the Cybersecurity Administration of China from last year. The announcement showed that the address belonged to the National Internet Emergency Center. At the same time, the Cybersecurity Administration of China also shares that address. The two centers share the same employees, they just have two different names. This institution is the central internet regulator and censor for the Chinese regime. Meanwhile, China's Ministry of Propaganda says they will soon publish a book. It's titled Great Country Against Epidemic. China halts new coronavirus epidemic in 2020 and praises the Chinese Communist Party as a hero. A netizen wrote that the book is already available for pre-order on e-commerce site Taobao, which is owned by Alibaba. The netizen added he thought the first chapter would start with Li Wenliang being warned by police, but there was no mention of Li Wenliang at all. Li Wenliang is the whistleblower doctor from Wuhan who tried to warn his medical friends about the coronavirus outbreak, but was silenced by authorities. He later died of the virus. This netizen added most people are still alive and know the truth, and yet authorities are already tampering with history. He says he doesn't dare think about the past. And in the U.S., Senator Marco Rubio tweeted on Friday morning, the first coronavirus-related drug shortage in the U.S. is not the last. He said it's by far the single greatest threat our nation faces from the outbreak. On Tuesday, Secretary Azar confirmed to Senator Rubio that this is a wake-up call that perhaps we are overly dependent on a supply chain so heavily concentrated in one place in the world. Yesterday, Senator Rubio released a plan to combat America's supply chain risks and U.S. dependence on China for pharmaceuticals. And the U.S. House of Representatives could vote on an emergency bill aimed at providing funding for the country's coronavirus response as soon as next week. That's according to a congressional source who added negotiators are looking at approving between $6 to $8 billion in funding for the response, which is exponentially higher than the $2.5 billion the White House has requested. The public's access to truthful information is essential during contagious disease outbreaks. The Taiwanese government has detected large amounts of fear-mongering rumors circulating online, and they say many have links to mainland China.
While battling to control the coronavirus outbreak, Taiwan is now facing another war, no easier, combating online rumors about the virus. The self-governing democratic island has detected misinformation spreading on social media. The posts often appear to be from relatives of Taiwanese officials. Some of the posts show screenshots of horror films with claims that many people have died in Taiwan and the Taiwanese government is covering up the outbreak. However, some of the posts include simplified Chinese characters, which are used in mainland China. Taiwan, however, uses traditional characters. The posts also use phrases common to mainland Chinese dialects, but which are never used in Taiwan.
From our initial investigation, the IPs are from overseas. From the phrasing of the words, we think they are from mainland China. Their intention is to try to hurt our disease control system and make false accusations of our government.
The Taiwanese government says it has detected over 400 cases of misinformation and filed over 50 cases for further investigation. Despite its proximity to China, compared with other East Asian countries, Taiwan's outbreak is relatively under control. The island cut off all tourists from mainland China as early as January 25th. It now has 34 confirmed cases. Taiwan's government says it expects more false information from the mainland in the near future. Taiwan has battled against Beijing's information war for many years. The Taiwanese government also said in the nation's 2020 election, the Chinese regime ramped up its efforts to sow distrust in Taiwan's democracy by employing an internet army to post misinformation. Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Taiwan may not be the only target of misinformation. Recently, rumors about the coronavirus outbreak have also been circulating in North America. Many are spreading through the Chinese messaging app WeChat, causing panic in Chinese American communities.
A city council member stepping out to clarify rumors after a recent post on China's messaging app, WeChat, claimed a person in Flushing, New York, is infected. The post circulated widely among New York's Chinese communities, prompting a sales plunge for local businesses. Lately, rumors of the coronavirus have been spreading on WeChat. an app popular both inside China and among Chinese immigrants overseas. As concern over the outbreak grows, businesses inside Chinatowns in cities like New York, Boston, and Vancouver are suffering. Some restaurant owners say most of the customers they've lost are Chinese. Some of the posts are purely rumors, but some feature alarming headlines. Recently, a public WeChat account targeting an audience of Chinese immigrants and visitors in New York published an article titled, "The U.S. Admits the Virus Outbreak Will Explode. Whistleblower Says CDC is Intentionally Covering Up, and there are over 1,000 cases in the U.S." The article has been viewed over 100,000 times on WeChat. The account boasts over 400,000 followers. Compared with this loose regulation on reports about the outbreak situation in other countries, WeChat seems to tightly restrict information about the situation in China. The app is reportedly helping China to hunt down coronavirus critics and silence critics in the U.S. Earlier this month, a nonprofit based in D.C. called Citizen Power Initiatives for China said it's preparing to file a lawsuit against WeChat. It says the app is exporting China's censorship to the U.S. Reporting by Penny Zhou, NTD News.
A frontline medic tells us what it's like being sent to work at China's coronavirus outbreak epicenter and the pain of seeing death. NTD's Xiaohua Gu has the details.
Intense workload, supplies shortage, and death. A frontline medic in China tells us his agony of seeing patients die from the coronavirus. His voice has been distorted to protect his identity.
Actually, at first we couldn't accept the facts. Many team members were very sad and crying. We couldn't bear it, so we would just cry behind others' backs. We can only slowly suffer through this.
Dr. Chen is among the over 700 medical staff sent to Ezhou for support. He said about 70 staff members have contracted the virus in the city central hospital where he works. With over 1 million people, Ezhou is a city only half an hour's train ride from Wuhan, the center of China's coronavirus outbreak. Chen said he and his colleagues, too, are afraid of death and infection.
Some of our team members dare not tell their family members. Do you know the first thing that some people did after they were notified of the dispatch? They took a photo with their family members, fearing they will never return.
Medics sent to Ezhou are fairly young, as the workload is intense. A 6-hour shift in a hazmat suit means lack of oxygen, lots of sweat, and no bathroom. Patients who are critically ill have little chance of survival, Chen said.
We took over about a dozen patients who were critically ill, and 6 of them have passed.
Chen told us patient situations can quickly turn bad. He said he had a patient with kidney failure and a lung that was hardened like a stone within 3 weeks of having symptoms. He hopes the outbreak will soon end. Xiaohua Gu, NTD News, New York.
Chen told us despite having support from over 700 doctors from other provinces, the local city is still struggling to cope with the amount of patients it is now facing. Shortage of medical supplies is also a problem. Ezhou used to rely on Wuhan for medical supplies, and now the city has to secure their own after the lockdown. A Chinese scientist was sentenced to 24 months in federal prison for stealing more than $1 billion in trade secrets from his former employer, a U.S. petroleum company.
Tan Hongjing, a Chinese national and U.S. permanent resident, was arrested in December 2018. He pleaded guilty last November to charges relating to stealing trade secrets after admitting to downloading research materials from Phillips 66 without authorization. The stolen information related to the manufacturing of an unspecified energy product estimated to be worth roughly $1.4 billion to $1.8 billion. Tan was an associate scientist from Phillips 66 in Oklahoma. He was assigned to work with a team to develop next-generation battery technologies for lithium-based battery systems. The DOJ said Tan downloaded hundreds of files to a thumb drive on December 2018 and then submitted his resignation on the same day. According to court documents, Tan told a co-worker at the company that he planned to return to China. During the investigation, the FBI found on Tan's laptop an employment agreement from a Chinese company that produces lithium-ion battery materials. The federal judge also ordered Tan to pay $150,000 in restitution and spent 3 years on probation following his release from prison. This prosecution is among a growing list of cases targeting Chinese state-sponsored theft of U.S. trade secrets.
Hong Kong police arrested 3 prominent members of the city's democratic movement today. They include local publishing tycoon Jimmy Lai and 2 former pro-democracy legislators.
Self-made millionaire and local media mogul Jimmy Lai has been a major financial patron of Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement. He was arrested by police at his house on Friday and charged with so-called illegal gathering. In July of last year, Lai met with U.S. Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in Washington. According to the State Department, Pompeo and Lai discussed the extradition bill and Hong Kong's autonomy under the one country, two systems framework.
Well, the Hong Kong situation is getting tense here, but we have to go on. We have to go on.
Online, U.S. Senator Josh Hawley took to Twitter to condemn Lai's arrest. He called it a transparent attempt by Beijing to silence pro-democracy voices. Hawley added that while #coronavirus ravages China, repression is Beijing's priority. Aside from Lai, 2 other pro-democracy campaigners were also arrested. Hong Kong's Democratic Party wrote on its official Facebook page that Young Sum, the party's former chairman and former member of the city's legislative council, was taken away by police Friday morning. The Democracy Party stated that Young was also accused of taking part in an illegal assembly on August 31st last year. It called Young's arrest an act of revenge by Hong Kong authorities. Local TV reports revealed that former vice chairman of the Labour Party Lee Shuk-ya was also arrested on Friday on the same charges. U.S. Senator Rick Scott, who visited Hong Kong last year amid the unrest, said the 3 were arrested for participating in a peaceful protest against a repressive government, a government which he said denies the people of Hong Kong their basic human rights.
Jimmy and the other leaders of the peaceful protest should be honored for their commitment to freedom and human rights for Hong Kongers. Carrie Lam and the Chinese Communist Party should consider their next moves very, very carefully. I think we're all going to follow it, and hopefully our government will be very responsive.
The arrest of the 3 comes after months of intense pro-democracy protests last year. Lai left the police station following his arrest later on Friday. Police say all 3 have been charged and are set to appear in court on May 5th.
The Court of Arbitration for Sport saying today the Chinese multiple world and Olympic swimming champion Sun Yang has been banned from the sport for 8 years for missing an out-of-competition test.
China's 3-time Olympic gold medalist Sun Yang expressed his shock at being handed an 8-year ban on Friday for a dope test violation that ruled him out of the Tokyo Games and said he would immediately appeal the decision. The Court of Arbitration for Sport earlier accepted an appeal from the World Anti-Doping Agency against a decision by swimming's governing body to clear Sun of wrongdoing for his conduct during a 2018 test. CAS said the 8-year ban was imposed because the 28-year-old already had an earlier anti-doping rule violation against him. The Chinese swimmer is the reigning world and Olympic champion in 200 metres freestyle and won 2 gold medals in 2012 and another in 2016, but is also a controversial figure in the sport. At the Rio Games, Australian rival Mac Horton accused him of being a drug cheat and refused to share a podium with Sun at last year's World Championship, whilst the appeal hung over him. As did British swimmer Duncan Scott, who won 200 metres freestyle bronze. CAS ruled that Sun's World Championship results should remain, because he passed doping control before and after the 2018 test, when his entourage smashed vials containing blood samples taken out of competition.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.